You got out of Baltimore, Queen Goddess Hope. She is a spiritual healer, an economic and financial strategist. And please welcome, out of Baltimore, Queen Goddess Hope. Hotep, sis.
Peace and black power to everybody. My name is Nadia. I go by Queen Goddess Hope. It's an honor and privilege to be here always. Special thanks to Street Lord Shoulders of DC. Always amazing to be in the presence of Brother Shaka. Today I wanted to talk about something that I generally don't speak about. Still in line with spirituality and really having a strong relationship with who you deem your higher power or source. So I have a few questions that I'd like to ask about spiritual laziness. What does spiritual laziness mean to you? Do you avoid your passion and purpose? Do you refuse to take up responsibilities? Are you offending Source God energy? Spiritual laziness is when you are blocked from the connection within yourself and others. Who or what is your God of understanding? Are you seeking wisdom in everyday experiences? How are you tapping into yourself to create unique experiences based on love and peace and wisdom? Are you being victim to life? What are your sources of strength? Have you created a set of beliefs and values that influence the way you live? Are you possessed by worry, conflict, overthinking, people-pleasing, judging others, and judging yourself? What is driving your spiritual laziness? So when I started to ponder and think about what I wanted to really dive into, previously I had talked about finances and the importance of getting your financial house in order. Here we are amongst one another, beautiful black beings in the space, and a lot of us are really lacking the financial literacy in our community. I had a 2-hour lengthy conversation earlier today with a sister that was a mentor of mine when I was a teenager. And she mentioned, I'm from Staten Island, New York, and a lot of the WU members are our affiliates. And there were some people there who didn't gift their children anything upon their transition. And what does your children have to do with any of this? A lot of times there are children struggling with surviving in this world because there are single mothers who are still working every single day. There are a lot of male-dominated forces that are driving the continuous separation of the black family. So what are we really doing to maintain our financial house, to keep that in order, our spiritual house in order, our physical house in order, and our internal house in order? You cannot really operate in this space without understanding the importance of legacy. Sis mentioned a seed being buried, and here we are, all of the plants thriving. Regardless of what your circumstances may look like on the outside, how are you thriving in those spaces? And this is exactly where that spiritual laziness comes into play. Because regardless of what your religious higher power may be, there was a time when I was walking in the dark for 5 years. I just decided to take a break from spirituality, from who Source God energy was, because I felt that he or her, Mother Earth, whomever you want to deem as your higher power, turned their back on me. And I just was walking aimlessly in this world for 5 years. I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do, what job or career I wanted to dive into, how I was going to make money in this world. I decided I wanted to separate ties from corporate America. And during that entire time, I was going completely insane and crazy because I had lost my connection with my higher power. I didn't have anyone to kind of channel that anger, that hurt, that pain, that confusion. How come I'm not a silver spoon baby? How come no one willed me anything? How come people are able to change wills and change, any rules and regulations that may benefit someone in your family? That actually happened in my family. Someone changed a will and took money out of my family's mouths. We fell into poverty because of that. So when I think about my spiritual house, I had to now seek and find who Source God energy, who God was to me. And then, of course, we know you always have to look at yourself first. So when I was brushing my teeth in the morning, I'm now looking at myself, actually looking at myself, because so many of us brush our teeth in the morning and don't look at ourselves. So many people wash our faces in the morning. You have to go into that mirror every single day, God willing, to brush your teeth. Are you actually looking at yourself? You know, have you sat with yourself? Have you looked at yourself? I had to admire myself. Sure, I may be a beautiful being, but I never realized that I had so many freckles. I never realized that my eyes change in the summer. I never realized all of these different things, you know? And I feel like because I was lacking that internal direct connection with Source, that I internally also suffered. So again, when I thought about it, I discovered that spiritual laziness is actually rooted into something that is truly hurting you, something that you gave more power than yourself. Because you can solve all problems and issues and generally anything within. It depends on how you're going to react to them. You know, how are you going to react, Mama Earth? We need to come together and unify. But what spiritual power are we going to use to combat them? Because we all know this is definitely a spiritual battle. Yes, it is physical, but this is more spiritual than it is physical. So if it takes all of us to be healed and all of us to begin healing in order to conquer and win this battle, then let's do that. For centuries, they told us that our beliefs and our spiritual practices were demonic, or they were something that we shouldn't even be using. You know, they took it and called it Catholicism and Christianity and all of these other things. But when we realize that these things are actually tools that allow us to propel us into the future, because if we are fighting a spiritual battle, and if we are capable of using our ancestors, and if we are capable of creating ancestor altars and honoring them day in and day out, if we're able to continue to pour these libations, why aren't we doing it? Do you realize that if every single one of us came together and created our own strong spiritual practice, especially with our ancestors, how powerful we could be?
Absolutely.
Do you realize what kind of wars we could really win? Because if they're continuing to use our powers, our ancestor energy against us, how do we win? You have to do your work individually before we can come together.
Right.
And I think that's really the most important thing about being in spiritual isolation. Because if you don't even know who you are at the core, how can you help somebody else outside of you?
Right.
It's impossible. It is impossible. So, you know, what I'm here to talk about in depth more is anxiety. A lot of people struggle with mental health issues, anxiety. Anxiety is the issue of you constantly living in the future as opposed to you living in the present, practicing mindfulness. What does mindfulness look like? We're all here. We could all be on our cell phones. We could all be texting and typing and doing everything else, enjoying something else. But we are here and we're being mindful and we're listening to every single person that comes on this mic. You know, we're fellowshipping together. You have to have your spiritual house in order. Find out what these deep-rooted issues are. If you are not well-versed in the financial system, get help. If you're not well-versed in, I don't even know, whatever it is, entrepreneurship, healing, understand your childhood wounds, heal your childhood trauma. If these are not things that you're well-versed in, ask somebody. We are in a room for other brothers and sisters. We have our own networks that we're coming with. Pour and tap into one another. That is the best thing that you can do to ensure that you are continuously building the kingdom. When you're lazy, it shows up in many different ways. And we all know that. We all require a rest day. That is not considered laziness. That is a requirement for all of us. If you are Christian, they talk about how on the seventh day, that is the Sabbath, it is a rest day. How many rest days are you taking? Are you taking 3 and 4 rest days? Are you taking spiritual rest days? The greatest miracles of life come in the midst of storms. But the only way that you can actually teleport that into being fruitful is actually by trusting a higher power to get through those weak moments. Some signs of spiritual laziness is your faith fits into a checklist. I like that. How often do you prioritize your spirituality? Are you actually putting it on your calendar? Some people say they schedule in intimacy with their partner. Some people schedule in gym time, some people scheduling hanging out with friends, but are you prioritizing your spirituality? Are you prioritizing your kingdom work? Are you prioritizing Black unity? Are you prioritizing Black economics? Are you prioritizing yourself? Where do you fit in on that list? You take your issues as your own because you don't have a higher power to trust. Are you operating around low frequency and low vibrational energies? When was the last time you checked your circle, your friend circle, people that you trust, blind trust? Are they younger than you? Are they older than you? If they're older than you, how are they benefiting you? Are they imparting that original knowledge onto you? Think about your circle. Think about your financial circle. Think about the vibrational frequencies of abundance. How does that look? Are you also operating in low vibrational energies because of that? Are you going out clubbing all the time? Or are you using drugs all the time? Smoking and drinking. Where does your money go? Are you investing it? Are you looking to leave something to your children? Do you have life insurance? Think about all of these things. If you're unable to find meaning, hope, peace, strength in connections in life with other relationships, they tend to suffer if you are unable to find any of those things. Subtract distractions. I cut off my television for 4 years. That was the greatest thing I could ever do for my life because I decided to prioritize me, my financial well-being, knowledge, understanding my culture and my people more, getting into the genealogy because I discovered that the more I knew about my family, the more powerful I became. And I think a lot of people really need to dig into that. It's not about getting DNA tests done. It's not about any of that stuff, but ask your surviving family members. When was the last time you thought of something from grandma or grandpa? Can you tell me something that they did? What was the funniest thing that you could think of? Allow your energy to survive. We called in our ancestors to make it to this space. We could do the same thing with those who came before us in our family. It's really important that we do so. But you also have to cut out those distractions to be able to have that immediate connection, with source guide energy and your ancestors. If you don't have a higher power, you allow more stress in your life, and now you are a product of spiritual laziness. So once again, I thank everybody for your time. It's always a pleasure. Ashe.